Hey everybody, welcome to this walkthrough on OneShot by Klevgrand, which has just come out for iPad. So this has been out on desktop for a while. It's had loads of great reviews, 5 stars from Sound on Sound, 4 stars from Music Radar. Basically what it is a drum sampler, and they also call it a percussive workstation. And it's really good in terms of giving you very natural sounding drums with a lot of humanization and that kind of thing. And this is something that has been really missing in AUV3 form on iPad. Maybe there have been some apps that could do some of these things, but perhaps had a difficult workflow or were not AUV3 and stuff like that. So in this video, I'll look at what the app is, how it works. I'll demo some of the sounds, and I'll talk about something very important, and that is, does this have all the functionality of the desktop version? Couple of things I need to mention before we get started. If you look in the pinned comment of this YouTube video, you'll find a plugin boutique link. If you're buying this for desktop, I'd really appreciate it, folks, if you would use my plugin boutique link. You can actually use that to buy any desktop plugins that are available in Plugin Boutique, and this one is available there. I'll get a small commission. It's a really great way to help me make some money from all the work I'm putting into this channel. Thank you. Another thing is, you'll see in the pinned comment some information about giveaways on my Patreon. I've got a bunch of Klevgrand apps to give away there. Thank you so very much, Klevgrand, for providing those. And I've also got even a chance for one person on one of the Patreon tiers to win any Klevgrand desktop plugin. So great prizes. Okay, so let's first just look very, very briefly at the UI before we dive into some examples of what it can sound like. So here we have slots, and these slots basically contain various files. In this case, it's files of a bass drum. So this would have been a real bass drum and all very meticulously sampled at lots of different velocities to create something supernatural sounding. And these have a few different controls in each slot. And you can kind of see, this hi-hat, snare drum, and so on. And then down here, we have a little keyboard with some little colored dots on it. And you can see here, we also have colored dots. So you also see these sort of pop in or whatever, expanding when they're played, and you can see what's being triggered here. So for example, this one here, this slap shaker, that is being triggered by this note here on the keyboard. Okay, so let's whack up the volume and listen to some examples. So I loaded these in, I just went through and found some of the presets that I liked the most, and I loaded them into the AUM preset menu. And OneShot does have its own preset system. It's fairly minimal, but anyway, I just often just save things in AUM. I'm used to it. So you can see there are loads of sounds in this kit, and I'm only triggering a few. I do have my keyboard here beside me, so I could trigger that as well. But look, I'm not trying to demo all of the, probably thousands of sounds in this app. Even just a couple of sounds in each kit will give you an idea of the flavor of the kit. And also of the versatility of this, right? Because you can hear already that there are just loads of different flavors. I like this one. I usually like Klevgrand's taste in stuff. I'll try and go through the rest of them fairly quickly. For desktop users, demos like this are not that important because you guys get to demo stuff, but iOS users don't have any way to demo this. So this kind of thing can be quite important. So worth mentioning, if you're looking at the UI, you can see that there are various effects that can be loaded in different slots. And so the difference between all of these is not just in the samples themselves, but it's also in the processing of them inside the app. Okay, so I don't want to make this video too long, so I'll just stop there and we can take a look at the UI. Now, there are some kids playing outside, so there might be some shouting noises and stuff from time to time. But nothing I can do about that, folks. And it's rainy season where I am. It's been raining all day. It delayed me making this video anyway, so I really need to just power through now. Kids' noises be damned. So we'll look now at the UI in more detail. So we have these slots here, and one thing worth noticing is that you can move slots around. Now, I do kind of wish that there was an undo button in this app to undo when I do something like that. But there's no undo and redo function for some reason. So here, this snare drum, if I just pause that and I look down here, so we can see here, okay, the first thing here is this B, and that B is triggering this hollow vintage bass drum over here. And then here, this is also triggering it, right? Same thing, but do you see how different it sounds? So that will be because there is some difference in the trigger settings here, in these gain, pitch, filter, and tweak settings, and we'll look at those in a bit more detail later. So these, this is called the triggers section, and here we see the notes laid out, and if two notes have the same color, it means that both those notes are going to be triggering the same sample or group of samples. And yeah, as I said, there's probably going to be some difference in how their tweak settings are set up. So going back up here to the slot section, each slot can have up to 2 effects. There are various options, and this is stereo spread, for example. Now, I'm having a lot of difficulty with the touch responsiveness of this UI. I think it really needs to be tweaked a little bit better. You know, I tap things and nothing happens and so on. It's just not quite right. Definitely needs some tweaking. So there are a bunch of different effects there, okay? No effect, EQ, compressor, finalizer, gate, reverb, room. So the first reverb is algorithmic reverb. The second one, room reverb, that'll be impulse response based or something, I think. Delay, stereo spread, distortion, bit crusher. So I won't demo those. You know, it's Klevgrand app. They have loads of FX apps. You know, it's going to be good quality. Then we can adjust the pitch. We can adjust the panning. We can send each slot to one of these 2 buses, bus 1 or bus 2. And we can solo or mute each slot. So here we're adjusting the amount that's being sent to the buses. Here we can audition the slot. Here we can look at the files that are going to be played here. So It's really important to talk a little bit about this round robin. So if we look here, snare drum, rattle, okay, we can see there are so many different ones in there. And you see, as we go down, they're basically getting louder. And this is generally the way these will have been set up, that you're going to have your lower velocity recordings near the beginning and then the higher volume stuff near the end. But if you turn on round robin, you can change that behavior. So let's see what let's see again which note is triggering this. It's this one, isn't it? Let me check that. Yes. Okay. So if I put round robin up here, now it is going to cycle through this list. You see the way that is going down in order? Now it's gone back up to the first one, and it's just cycling down. So that's with round robin at 100. If you have round robin at 0, it's going to take the velocity of the MIDI that you input, and for example, a velocity of 1, I mean, it's going to depend how many samples you've got. We got 33 samples and 127 possible MIDI amounts between 1 and 127. So if I played a very low velocity MIDI note, like a 1, 2, 3, something like that, it would play this file. And if I then play, say, you know, a velocity value of 5 or 6 or 7 or something, it's going to be triggering that second one. So if I just put in a little bit of round robin, it's going to allow that to just roam a little bit from there. And if I put up a lot, it's just going to cycle through totally sequentially like we saw. So we have sequential and we have random option here. So round robin can be really, really useful if you're sending in sequencer MIDI, and let's say all the notes have the same velocity. That could get very repetitive for the listener. So by using round robin, you could bring in a bit of randomness. It would just sound more human. Then you have here this waveform thing. So the top one, that allows you to zoom in. So you can see as I'm adjusting that, the lower ones are showing more detailed view of the area that's been zoomed into. And if I then press here and drag, I can drag that around as well. So then here is where we can actually adjust the start and the end points of the sample. Then you have, for example, add audio. So this is the only way that I have found so far to add audio into this app. And I'll talk a bit more about that later. A little bit worried about that because when I use this method, I can only add one file at a time. It seems very inconvenient. I have not yet figured out how to add multiple pieces of audio at once. And from the manual, that should definitely be doable. On desktop, all of that stuff is extremely easy to do, and there's all drag and drop and everything. This doesn't have drag and drop either, and I'll talk about that in more detail later. So anyway, you can add audio in here using that. You can delete things with the X here and save here any changes that you make. Okay, I'll just close that. Then here in load, we get this, it says open slot, and then we can choose from all these different factory ones. So 60s kit, snare drum 1, snare drum, blah, blah, blah. So now you'll see in user here, I have not got any slots yet. And we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute as well. Solo, mute, volume. Okay, main out. Let's look at this. So by default, things will go to the main out over here, okay? but this is capable of being used as a multi-out plugin. So the way multi-out works will vary depending on the host app that you're using. I'm using AUM. So if we want to use multi-out, the way we do it in AUM is like this. First, we've got just a normal instance of this plugin opened here. If I want to open a second multi-out instance, I click here, Multibus Audio Unit Instances, and choose OneShot. And you see now here there is that number 2. So if we go, we can click on either of these. These have exactly the same UI, and any changes we make to one will be changed in the other. But if I, for example, then now choose 2 here, then now it's going to send the audio from this slot to channel 2. And basically what that means is that it will come out here. So this slot will only play let me just mute that. This now will only play that bass drum. So that is very useful if you want to add different effects to different drums. So that's how you can set up multi-out. So I just opened one there, but as you can see, it can send out up to 9 of those. Let me just change it back to main out. Now, if I click on new slot, from what I can understand from the manual, there should be an import button here. And then using that import button, I should be able to import multiple samples at the same time. But as you can see, there is actually no import button. I've been seriously scratching my head about this, and I sent an email to Klevgrand about this earlier today, but I didn't get a reply yet. If I get a reply about this, I'll let you know by writing something about it in the pinned comment on this video. So it's really kind of bugging me, this, because I just can't figure out how to import multiple samples at the same time. And unfortunately, there's no there's no drag and drop enabled in the iOS version. And this is not because iOS is not capable of drag and drop. There are other plugins, like for example, Koala Sampler or Citala, another sampler app, that can handle, as AUV3s, they can handle they can handle we're just wondering why this is not playing. What have I done wrong here? Oh yeah, I muted that. Yeah, there are other things that can handle drag and drop. Probably why this can't is because it is, I think, a Juice port. And Juice has not enabled it has not enabled, I'm so tired. I've been working on this like all day. Juice have not enabled drag and drop. But I do know that some desktop developers who used Juice have managed to enable drag and drop, like Audio Modern managed to do it. So I don't know. Is it possible? I'm not sure. Definitely, it's something that is very useful, and it's a pity that this doesn't have that. So like I say, I really hope I can solve this issue of loading multiple samples, because if you can't load multiple samples, the workflow can get seriously much more time consuming. In the desktop app, not only can you import multiple samples, but you can also choose when you import them how it will organize them. It is able to intelligently assign different samples to different slots based on their name, kind of guessing which samples should go together. You know, what are all the different variations of the bass drum or different variations of the snare and so on. Or you can have, one sample per slot, or you can just put all the samples in one slot. But on iOS, you also don't have those options. It's just all the samples just go in one slot. So there are definitely some drawbacks to this compared to the desktop version, it seems. Now, let's look at, I think the only other thing that we really need to look at here is, in this slots, we need to look at chokes. So chokes are very useful in drums. If you think about playing drums, think about a drummer, for example, if you have an open hi-hat and then the hi-hat is closed, then once it's closed, that is going to silence the open hi-hat sound. You can't have the open hi-hat and the closed hi-hat sounding at the same time. So the choke function allows you to make one drum mute another drum when it sounds. So here you would just dial in the amount. So here this would just be the bass drum choking itself. That could be useful for cymbals, for example. Cymbals, you might want to make the cymbal choke itself. Or you can just, make it choke another drum instead. And you can adjust the amount, the time, so that'll bring in a little bit of a delay in the choking effect. And here how much velocity will modulate the choking amount. So that's choke. And then the next thing really that we need to look at is down here at the bottom, the triggers. So first of all, we can grab something. For example, I can take this snare and I can drag it on to one of these notes. So now this will be the trigger for that slot. And then I can do a few different things. For example, I can long press here and drag that to move it. Or I can double tap and press copy, and then I can go here. And well, theoretically I can double tap, but I find it quite finicky. And then I can paste that. Or I can double tap and clear. So let me do that with this one as well. So yeah, both with the mouse and with my finger, I don't find this double tap is always working as well as I would like. Now we will look at these triggers in a bit more detail. So here, for example, this B and this B2 and C2, these are both going to trigger this bass drum, right? But they sound different, right? And that will be because of differences in how the trigger settings are set up. So let's look at trigger settings. By the way, here, if this is on, when we press MIDI notes, it will change which trigger setting it's showing us here. So that can be quite useful. And we can also tap down here to jump between different triggers. So here we have this gain section. And so this will allow us to adjust the gain for this particular trigger. And we can play around with the velocity and so on. We can have an envelope and adjust the attack and the effect of velocity on the attack, how that will modulate the attack and the hold and decay. And we can drag these curves and everything as well. And so this will represent the maximum possible gain. So that's what the level will be like at this point. So then here it's going to take some time to reach that level. Then we can do the same with pitch. So you can have the pitch of the drum changing over time. Here it's going to go to slightly higher pitch and stay there for a while and then go down. And then we can have a filter, and it can be low pass, high pass, band pass, and again, same or similar controls, like here's the Q control for that. And then here in tweak, what this will do is just humanize the settings in the gain. So it won't just be completely static like this. It will have a little bit of a variety. So we can set that for gain, pitch, filter, and time. And the scale knob will just allow us to reduce all of these without actually changing the values. So let's say, for example, this is say 50%, this is 40, this is 60, this is 30, let's say. If I put this to halfway, then it'll be like I pulled each of these knobs down halfway there. That didn't explain that the best, but hopefully you get what I'm on about. You can change the sample lookup curve, which velocities will trigger which samples basically, and the range of the samples in the slot that this will be able to trigger. So for example, we can have only this velocities between 80 and 127 here. Then here we can turn reverse on or off. So if it's on, it will just reverse that sound. So let me finish with a quick review. So I think this is beautiful quality drum sounds. I really love the kits. And there's so much variety in them. And I think the intro price on iOS being only $20, it's really a good deal. People have been waiting for something like this in AUV3 form and, you know, easy to use interface and stuff like that for a while. Something to get very, you know, natural sounding drums. So it's great that we've got this and it's only $20. Now that price will go up to $30. But it definitely feels like it needs a bit of tweaking. Either it's not explained properly in the manual how to import multiple samples, or it is just somehow not possible yet. But as I mentioned earlier in the video, using just this add audio function, you're only able to import single samples, and that's not ideal. And it's also not ideal if you need to load up a preset and you know, just switch out all its samples for new ones. Very strange. I don't know what's going on there, and I really wish that I had managed to hear back from Klevgrand in time. I didn't. Then the other thing that it needs really is a bit more attention to how controls respond to touch, because I mentioned that sometimes, you know, I would double tap and it didn't quite work, or I would try to close a pop-up and that didn't quite work. It just honestly feels a bit rough around the edges. The iPad AUV3, it has just been released. I just feel that it wasn't beta tested for long enough, or maybe the pool of beta testers wasn't very big. Remember, you know, beta testers are almost always just volunteering. They may have a lot of other stuff going on, and just a few days is not enough time, really, to get an app thoroughly beta tested. So, yeah, I hope that some lessons have been learned there. It definitely feels like it could have been beta tested a bit longer. Let me just check my list and see if there's anything else. So, yeah, there are a couple of things I wrote down earlier, and I'm glad I just checked because I would have forgotten some of them. It's been a very long 2 days, I'll tell you. So, some people have complained that you can't really play this app on the touchscreen. Like, that bothers me as a general principle. You know, there are so many iOS apps that don't really do anything in terms of touch, but I don't really mind that much when it's a desktop port, because I understand that, you know, it's been designed to be used with a mouse. And also it doesn't bother me because we can use things like this to play it on screen. And that can be far better than having to learn a different way for every different plugin, right? So yeah, that really doesn't particularly bother me. Is there anything else? Yeah, like another thing that I mentioned earlier in the video, even if it is possible to import multiple files simultaneously, in this. The desktop version can intelligently sort them automatically into different multi-sampled slots based on their file name and so on, as I explained earlier in the video. It's really a pity that this can't do that. Also, no drag and drop here. That is definitely a bummer, and as I mentioned earlier in the video, other apps can handle drag and drop. I know that this is a Juice port, I think, anyway, so that's probably why, but definitely it does kill your workflow a little bit. And I've also had some crashes with this in AUM, so I do hope that those things get sorted out. So let me finish up there, everyone. I feel like this app, I didn't really like demo the drums a lot through the app. Frankly, I've been working pretty much non-stop since yesterday trying to learn this app and trying to, solve some of these issues that came up about things like not being able to import multiple samples and so on, and then trying to get this video ready. And I really want to get this video out quickly because I think people really need to see a good, unbiased review. And I think that is what I have given you here. If you found it useful, please do smash the like, everyone, and take 1 second, well, okay, not 1 second, 10 seconds to write a comment just to help the algorithm. And as I said earlier, if you can use my Plugin Boutique link, either to buy this on Plugin Boutique, or, anytime you're buying anything on Plugin Boutique, if you can use my link and you're a fan of my channel, it's a really great way to support me. And I would be, and always am, extremely grateful when I get a little email that someone made a purchase using my link and I got a little kickback from it. It's really nice. Okay, thanks everyone. I want to get this video up as soon as possible. I'll see you in the next one.